So basically, economics means how do we get the things that we need to live? Very simple. Economics in modern day, of course, has become something very different from that, and become some arcane subject which few people think they understand, but actually the whole thing is made to be very complex so that we think we cannot understand. But in spiritual economics, we address the very root of the economic question. First thing to understand is, why are we as spiritual beings? Maybe we should close these curtains. Everybody's looking outside.
No, there's some devotees.
Yeah, I know. So close them, because I lose everybody's attention. So the root question is, why are we as spiritual beings here in the material world? That's the fundamental question to be asked about economics. Nobody else in the world is asking this question in relationship to economics. And without asking that question, we can't actually understand what's behind all the economic behavior in this world. Do you have Srimad Bhagavatam first canto in English?
Yeah. First canto.
First. Yeah, first canto, chapter. Second canto, chapter. First volume. Second.
Everybody can understand? Yeah, somebody need Dutch translation?
He's doing that. So that's the first question to be asked. Why spiritual being is in this material world? And the answer to that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam explains that all the living entities who are here have come here with the idea of, as Prabhupada says, exploiting the resources of material nature. In Prabhupada's explanation of the Hare Krishna mantra, he explains like this: that as living spiritual souls, we are all trying to exploit the resources of material nature, but actually we are becoming more and more entangled in our complexities. And this is what's going on. In our attempt to enjoy the things of this material world, of course, what's the limit or nature of that enjoyment? We have some sense gratification. I have some. You have a little table? Yeah. I have some. I have some sense pleasure. It gives me some form of happiness, or let's say, at least it gives me pleasure. And most of us, we interpret this as something nice. Hare Krishna. Come on in. Come close. Sit on this side. Sit over here. We have some sense gratification, and we like that, so the idea is, well, I want to get more. And then, how do we get more? This is the big question. How do we get more? Why do we want more? How do we get more? The Srimad Bhagavatam explains that the living entity, under the influence of the modes of material nature, thinks of himself in two ways, which are called I and mine. I am this body, I am these senses, and I am also the things that I possess. If I have more, I am more. If I have more than you, I'm more important than you. I'm better than you. And in the materialistic conception of life, I want to be what? I want to be the enjoyer. I want to be God. Everyone in this material world's trying to take the position of God in terms of being the enjoyer and the proprietor. In Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, text 29, Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Sridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatamam Shantamrichiti. Lord Krishna explains there his position as God. God is the supreme enjoyer. Not only the supreme enjoyer, He's the only enjoyer. God is the supreme proprietor, and He's the only proprietor. And He's the dearmost friend of everyone. Prabhupada called this the peace formula. If we understand God's position and we act properly in relationship to Him, then the whole world can be at peace. But because we are all trying to take the position of the Lord to some degree or another, therefore there's conflict. I want, you want, she wants, he wants, and so there's conflict. Who can have what? So, in the effort to get more, to be more, the people who have created this modern culture, let's say rather, some people, they have created the modern culture to function in this particular way, the way it functions now, with very different from the way culture formerly used to function. Okay, any of you related to each other here? Husband and wife, or all unrelated individuals? Okay, oh, you have your wife here. Okay. Anybody else? No? All right. Okay, those two. Okay. Now, aside from those relatives, those who are married or so on, let's take you two, for example. What's your relationship to each other?
2 eyes, 2 ears.
Huh? Any relationship? Any obligation that you have to him or he has to you? No? Anybody else? Do you have obligation to anybody here? Why not? Why not? Why do we only have obligation to our blood relatives? There was a time in human history when we would all have a relationship of responsibility to each other. You can see this if you go to some villages in India. Bhakti Vikas Swami, he wrote a very nice little book, Glimpses of Traditional Indian Life. Anybody has read this book? Nice little book. I recommend everybody read this. In this book, he's giving little cameos of what village life was like not so long ago, even within, let's say, our lifetimes, us older folks, that 50 years ago, that everybody in the village, they had an obligation to each other. They took care of each other. They made sure that nobody went without. And formerly it was like that also here in Europe. Not too long ago, maybe 600 years ago. 700 years ago, like that. The people who basically run the world, they decided that they wanted to change things back then. You know, the history of Western civilization basically is the history of control. At first, they began by controlling people with the sword. It was hard work. People resisted. Sometimes you got hurt. Sometimes you maybe got killed. And so it was challenging. But nonetheless, they wanted to run the world, so they did. By force. Then about 2,000 years ago, a little less, they got a better idea. They saw that some of these so-called Christians, that they would rather die or be tortured rather than give up their beliefs. So then they decided, well, let's do that. Let's control the world by belief. So then they made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire, which at that time went all the way from England to where? Where was it on the other side? Almost to India. So, this part of the world. Huh? So you had to then become Catholic or else what? Huh? So that's a very persuasive process. Everybody decided they were going to become Catholic except for a few. And so then for the next 1,000 years or so, a little more, they controlled everybody by belief. You either did the Roman Emperor at that time, Constantine, he made a deal with the Pope. He said, I tell you what, I'll make Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire on two conditions. One, that the Pope be both a temporal and spiritual leader. That is, he's king, a controller of everything. And the second condition was, I get to name the next Pope. So Sylvester thought it over for a little bit and said, okay, we got a deal. So that's what happened. So then they started controlling everything by belief. And you didn't have any choice in religion. You had to believe whatever the Pope said, or otherwise what? You're going to go to hell forever. Right? So that was a pretty persuasive argument. In any case, still their control wasn't complete. And they wanted to, they came up with a better idea. One idea in which nobody could escape. And so they then started giving freedom of religion. When Martin Luther, when he nailed his 95 Theses to the door of the church, they didn't hang him or whatever they did, burn him at the stake or something like that. Why was that? Because they decided at that time that they were going to change the way they ran the world. They were going to allow people to believe whatever you want, because they had a different idea for controlling you. Their new idea was that they were going to invent, or let's say make widespread, the creation of money. They were going to control everyone with money. Now this was a problem at the beginning because people were fairly independent. They were living on the land for the most part, most of them. They had what was called the common land. After the crops were brought in, then all the peasants, their animals were turned out to the common land. And of course they would use those animals for food. They were also able to grow their own food. So they were, in one sense, fairly independent. Well, that was a problem because they didn't want people to be independent. They wanted everybody to be dependent. They were starting just at that time to have factories, to have factory production, to have machines. And they needed factory workers. So how are they going to get them? When the people would rather have an easy life in the village, how did they get factory workers? So they started eliminating the common land. They started chopping it up into smaller and smaller pieces. And they even passed laws where they said nobody should own enough land where they can remain independent. If you fly from Ireland over to Ukraine and you look out the window, take a window seat next time you go, and look at how the land is divided up. And you'll get a very interesting history lesson from that. England and Ireland, the land is in very small pieces surrounded by bushes and trees. And the idea was that people could, let's say, formerly under the feudal system, people didn't need their own land. They were using the common land. They had protection of the Lord or Baron, whoever they were with. And so they didn't need to have their own land. But now in the new system, you're going to get money, and with that money you could buy your own land. Formerly only the barons, the kings, that could have land, not the regular people. But the new system is, yes, you too can be a landholder. You can get land. All you have to do is get the money together in order to be able to buy it. Well, people still didn't go for that idea. They still wanted to stay together and take care of each other. Now, this is a very interesting point. In America, he didn't say, I'm from America. In America, they push this propaganda about freedom and independence. I'm a self-made man. I take care of myself. There's a lot of propaganda about that. What about here? Same thing or not? Yeah. So, where does this idea come from? Because they wanted to divide the people in order to be able to control them. Okay? Here's the thing. We're together. We have a tight relationship, but we don't have freedom. Take for example the Pandavas. 5 boys, so tight you couldn't separate those boys, right? And whatever Yudhisthira said, that's what goes. Whatever Mom said, Draupadi, right? The boys come home. Usually they go out to the forest. They're picking something or something. They bring it home. Okay, here's what we got, Mom. She says, okay, divide it equally amongst yourselves. So one day they come home. Hey, Mom, look what we got. Yeah, whatever it is, you divide it amongst yourselves. But Mom, it's a girl. But that's what she said. So that's what you do. Yudhisthira, he's gambling away the whole kingdom. He's gambling away the wife. What can the boys say? Nothing. Because he's the eldest. So they didn't have freedom. But they had the support of each other. That's why it was in the feudal system. You didn't have freedom like we have today, but you had support from the other people. But they changed that. They wanted to change that. So that you have freedom now, but you don't have support. You don't have any obligation to each other. We're all alone in this world. We're free, yes, I'm independent, I can do what I want. But I'm also all alone. It's me against the world, right? Great odds. Good luck, right? And we see that, this happening in society. There's who is it? Emile Durkheim, sociologist. I don't know if he's French or what. Durkheim, maybe he was German, but Austrian. Anyway, he came up with this idea. He was studying. He was considered to be the father of modern sociology, and he was writing around about 100 years ago. So he was observing the results on society as a result of the what do they call it, the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century, and he could see that as the village society broke down and people came to the city, that they started becoming a little crazy. That the crime increased, the perverted behavior of different kinds, suicide increased. Suicide increased to the point he studied suicide to see. Because usually we think it's an individual thing. Oh, I'm unhappy, I'm going to kill myself. But he saw that there is actually a very direct correlation between what's going on in society and the number of suicides. So it's not just an individual solution to my problems, but it's a cultural phenomenon. So what happens is when people feel themselves alone and isolated, then they don't know how to behave. Or also when the culture is changing very quickly, then people don't know what is expected from them, and they don't know what to expect from others. And consequently, so they become very confused. They don't know what to do, and so the suicide rates go up. The antisocial behavior goes up. And so he gave this a word. He called it anami. This anami. We call it. Prabhupada calls it nirvishesha shunyavadi. Voidism and impersonalism. I'm alone in the world. Voidism. I don't know what my place is. I'm not connected with anything. And so it creates a mental disturbance. Well, that's what the people who were running the world, that's what they wanted to create. They wanted to separate everybody, to divide everybody so that you're all alone, and who do you depend on? The government. You have a problem, go to the government. We'll take care of you. Why? So that this way everybody was alone. They don't want people to get together. And at the same time, well, there's perks. There's advantages. Now you can own land. You can own your own house. Just work hard, get a job, start a business that we will tax, and get whatever you want. And so that's now going. They created that system, about 600 years ago. And now it's come to what we might call the stage of perfection, especially with the global economy. To where we have what? Now in America, and maybe you know this store called Walmart. It's a big, big store. You go in that store, it's like it's about 2 hectares big, It's got everything you can imagine and then more. And so it's owned by one family called the Waltons. The 6 people in the Walton family, their net worth is the same as the poorest 30% of people in all of America. 30%, 6 people own the same as 30%. Or globally, we have 2% of the people have more than 50% of the wealth. The bottom 20% of the people, they have 2% of the wealth. And of course, that's not enough to live a decent life on. And still, it's not enough. They want more. But you're only a billionaire? Nothing. Yeah, I've got 10 billion, 20 billion, 40 billion, right? Like that. Gates. How much is Gates worth? He's giving $4 billion this year to his foundation, the Bill and Melissa Gates Foundation. They're giving $4 billion to increase contraception, birth control. Bill's karma is about to change. Anyway, this creates a lot of problems. When people, of course, when people don't have enough to even survive. There's 1 billion people in the world. They wake up every day not knowing where the next meal is going to come from. There's children, they live in the garbage heaps. If you see some of these pictures, outside of the large cities, in South America, Rio, or Mumbai, and they spend their whole day just picking through the garbage. That's their whole life, living in this garbage pile. Not just a few. Any of you have been to India? You see it in the big cities. There's a lot of children there coming and trying to wash the car window with a dirty rag or doing something to get a little money to survive. So this is the problem that we have, because economics now is divorced from any sense of spirituality. And so there's a lot of good people in the world. They're trying to figure out how we're going to solve the economic problem. But I'll tell you, they're not going to be able to solve it. They can't. It's impossible. Why? Because they don't understand Bhagavad Gita. They don't understand how the world is working. How does the world work? Living spirit souls in this material world, and we're covered by Maya. We're influenced by gunas. And under the influence of those gunas, especially under the influence of tamagun, which is becoming more and more rampant, we don't know what to do, what not to do. What's in my best interest, what's not in my best interest. And so consequently, people, they make always the wrong decision. Or even if somebody's in Rajagun, they're trying to create a situation where they get more and more and more. And where do they get it from? You. Or people who don't have enough. They're trying to take more. For example, we had in 2008, we had a food crisis. There's a lot of people rioting all over the world because the prices of food went way up. Why did the price of food go up? Not because there wasn't enough food. There was plenty of food. But the market was manipulated by the traders, the Wall Street traders. So they were making huge profits by manipulating the price of foodstuff, and the result was people were going hungry. This is why they can't solve the economic problem. They won't be able to solve the economic problem because they don't know where the problem comes from. The problem is coming from Rajagun and Tamagun. Now, those of you who've read Bhagavad Gita, what's the result of Rajagun? Somebody? Come on. You have to read Bhagavad Gita more. Amita?
A lot of hard work.
Misery.
Wanting more.
Yeah, misery. The result of Rajagun, misery. Rajagun means I want more, 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 more. Modern society is Rajagun. You go to all the shops, so many things you see. I want this, I want that, more, more, more. More money, more house, more this, more that. And Tamagun. 4 pillars of sinful life: meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex, practically in every household. Through the internet. You can gamble, have illicit sex through the internet now. Meat eating, of course, everywhere. Intoxication everywhere. So Tamagun. And the result of Tamagun is what?
It begins by suffering and it
Destruction. Destruction. Everything's destroyed as a result of Tamagun. So, modern society, characterized mostly by Rajagun and Tamagun, what's the result going to be? You don't have to have a crystal ball to understand the future. You just have to understand Bhagavad Gita. This is called Trikalagya. The sage, the sadhu, he understands Shastra so he can look and see what are people doing, and he knows what their future will be because the laws of material nature are fixed and immutable. You perform activities in Rajagun, you're going to become unhappy. You perform activities in Tamagun, sooner or later it comes to an end. Every culture in the history of Western civilization has been destroyed by what? Because they've inflated their currency. Okay? They debased their currency. Whether you had gold coins and gold or silver coins, what the king would do is mix base metals along with them so that he could get more money. He'd inflate the currency by mixing base metals with it. This led to the collapse of all the civilizations before the creation of paper money. Every one of them. They all collapsed for this reason. The longest standing empire in the Western world is the Byzantine Empire. They lasted for 1,000 years. Why? Because they had good money. As soon as they started to debase their currency, within 200 years, finished. And what's going on in modern society now?
Printing money.
Printing money. What? Especially America. Printing. Huh? They're flooding the world with dollars. They make it a requirement that the countries of the world keep dollars in their vault in order to be able to support their own currency. And by this cheating system, the Americans, they're printing a lot of dollars to make weapons and destroy people. Great system. So, we know what the future is going to be. It's not going to be a happy ending if things go on like this. So the solution to the economic problem is to understand what is what is spirit? How are people in this world. Why are they in this world? How does this world affect them? How are the gunas affecting them? And then when we understand that, we understand exactly what we need to do to solve the problem. And the solution is sattva guna. There is no solution to the economic problem in tamagun. There is no solution to the economic problem in rajagun. You can't solve it. And in sattvagun, there is no economic problem. Huh? What's the economic basis of sattvagun? You plant one seed, and Krishna is based on life. Huh? The economic system of sattvagun is based on life, not dead paper. Huh? Not in something impersonal, something personal. You plant one seed of wheat. How many do you get back? 1,000. No, not so much. That's corn. Corn, you plant one and you get back 1,000. Wheat, you plant one and you get back about 50. That's a 5,000% rate of return. Huh? What's your bank giving you now? Anywhere close to that? Huh? No, maybe 2%, huh? Something like that. So Krishna, he's very generous. You plant corn, you get back 1,000. That's a 100,000% rate of return. Wow! The only problem is most of the corn's genetically modified now, so maybe you don't want to do that. So that's real economic development, and that's the only real economic development, and it's based on life. It's based on Krishna. And what's the cost? You scratch the ground and you put a seed in it. Is it very difficult? No. In Ukraine, in America too, all over the world, you see old ladies, 70 years old, they have a beautiful garden. Beautiful garden. If a 70-year-old woman can make such a nice garden, you strong young men, you can, you think? Huh? It's not too difficult. That's the basis for actual a personal world. Everybody is suffering by this anami, by this nirvishesha shunyavadi, and we don't know how to solve the problem. The problem is to give up these ideas of modern society and revert to the fundamental way that Krishna has given us to live. Krishna, he is, of course, our well-wisher. He satisfies whatever desire we have. He'll satisfy it in due course of time. So he's given us this world. You have material desires. Okay, here's your place. Go for it. He gives us the body. He gives us all the stuff. Satisfy your desires. But he also gives us a way to live in which we can be happy. But we're ignoring that. Modern society, we're ignoring that. Huh? Why? Because our way of life has been created by somebody else who wants to exploit us. And they do it without our even understanding how they're doing it. Well, somebody recently wrote a book that explains that 40% of everything that you buy, whatever it is, 40% of that cost is going to debt service. Debt service means somebody took a loan and then they're paying the debt. They're paying back the debt. They're paying interest, right? Now, who makes loans? People that have more money than what they need. Right? Yeah, I've got more money than I need, so I'll loan you some and you pay me back with interest. So the people with not enough money, they have to give more money to the people who have too much money. This is modern system. Doesn't make much sense, does it? It makes sense if your purpose is to suck the energy out of all the people. And that's the way modern society is arranged. So that we don't even know it. We become slave, a wage slave, without our even knowing it. And then, yes, I'm free. I can do whatever I want. No. You have to go to that job because if you don't, you're not going to be able to survive. You have to get money. Everybody in the whole planet needs money. Maybe there's a few guys still in the Himalayas that don't. But other than them, the rest of us, even the bums on the street, they got to beg for money. Huh? So, the problem, the economic problem, is not interest rates, it's not bank loans, it's not any of that stuff that they talk about in the press. It's got nothing to do with it. Huh? The problem is not understanding our spiritual nature, how we live in this world, how the world affects us. And Bhagavad Gita explains all of that very nicely. When we understand that, then we know immediately what the solution to the problem is. All that we have to do is to put it into practice. Now that's not so easy either. When I talk about reverting to an agrarian society, not too many people are very happy about that. We have perhaps a jaundiced idea of what that means, because people will say, well, I don't want to be a farmer. Okay, well, you don't have to be a farmer, but if you ever grown any food, you plant some tomatoes on the balcony of your flat or something, it's pretty neat. Huh? Food comes right out of the dirt. Can you imagine that? And it doesn't cost anything. Mother Earth, she's not saying, oh, tomatoes today, they're just $1.50 a pound, a kilo. No. Huh? Mother cow, she doesn't say, oh, only 2 euros per liter of milk. No. Huh? Krishna's economy is one of love. He's giving free. He's giving everything that we want, everything that we ask for. Huh? And spiritual economics means to reciprocate. Means we give something back to Krishna. Now Prabhupada, he started his whole movement like this. Prabhupada's movement is a gift economy based on devotional service. He said, I have not come to America to take anything from here. Because most of the other Indian yogis, right, they came there because Americans are rich, they got money. Get this mantra, it's only $35. Huh? Selling mantras and what have you. And Prabhupada said, I didn't come to take, I've simply come to give this Krishna consciousness. Huh? And so that's how he did. The Sunday love feast. They weren't charging, it's a love feast. Come on, eat. Here, take this book, please. Give a donation, whatever you can, to reciprocate, to cover the cost of printing. You don't have enough? That's okay, somebody else will cover it. It's a gift economy that Prabhupada started, and this whole movement is spread all over the world on the basis of giving. So this is practical proof that this system can work. We simply have to understand this and then endeavor to put it into practice. Here. There's some there's a change of consciousness going on for a lot of people in the world today. They are looking, especially since 2008, they're looking at the system and trying to. They see something is very wrong. In the 1990s, we had the global. The global economy, and a lot of the people were going to protest at the WTO and the G8 meetings and the World Bank and IMF and all that. And we thought, of course, when communism fell, that yes, see, capitalism is better, capitalism is one. But then, toward the end of the 90s, we started to see what capitalism was really like, the ugly side of capitalism, and they called it vulture economics, predatory capitalism, vulture capitalism, casino capitalism, tapeworm capitalism, all these pejoratives to describe how the owners of capital, how they were like sucking the wealth out of all the people of the world, so that people, they couldn't even survive. And now, in the 90s, or for the last 3 decades, that's been going on in the so-called third world countries or the second world countries. Now it's coming here. They're doing the same thing in Europe and America that they were doing in Latin America and Africa a decade or two ago. Same thing is coming here. We have to do austerity, right? Huh? Because why? Because the banks made too many bad loans, so we have to do austerity to pay back the banks. This is just a ruse. It's an excuse. If the whole thing's been manipulated to take more and more and more from you, to the point where you'll be matter of factly, you'll be a slave. This is what happens when the mode of ignorance goes to extremes. Prabhupada writes that the demons, that they're so envious, they don't want to see you happy. They're happy when they see you suffer. It's true. It's true. They want to see everybody suffer, so they're taking everything. Look at the people in Greece, in Italy, in Spain. They're all marching in the street. Have you had any protests like that here yet? No? Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Just now coming. As they say, just now coming. They're going to find a way how to take more and more and more, because they're not satisfied. The spirit soul can never be satisfied by any amount of material wealth. Right? We learned that story from Hiranyakasipu. He wanted it all. Give me all of it. The whole universe. That story hasn't changed. They still want it all. You know? And where do they get it from? Everybody else. And they don't want you to be happy. So what are we going to do? They've got this game called money. And here's the rules. I'm the banker. You're the people. The rules are, I win and you lose. And I say, let's play the game of money. And you say, oh, yeah, good, let's get some money. Right? And I make a lot of loans and everybody gets money. And we have a good economy and everybody's happy. And then I stop making loans. And then the economy comes to a grinding halt. And we say, oh my gosh, it's the recession. Sorry, I'm going to take 10% of the houses and you're going to lose your jobs and your businesses. But we'll fix it, don't worry, we'll get it back together. Okay? Just give us 5 more years. Merkel said that last week. We need 5 more years to fix the problem. So 5 more years, and yes, okay, then I start making loans again. And the economy starts working. Great, everybody's got money. Oh yeah, okay, we got money. You want some money here, 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 here. And then I stop making loans. And again the economy comes to a halt. And I'm sorry, it's a depression. 20% of you are going to lose your house this time. Your jobs, your businesses. Or sorry, we're working on it. We're going to try to fix it. And then we work on it, we get it fixed. And then we say, okay, let's play the game of money. And everybody says, yeah, money, okay. What's wrong with this picture? It doesn't work. It's not designed to work for the people. If you understand very simply how the money system works, where does the bank get money to loan to you? Out of thin air. They create it. How? By your signature. When you go to make a loan, you sign a note, right? That note is what has value. The bank doesn't have anything. They take that note that you've signed, they sell it on the secondary paper market, and that's where they get the money from, to give you, from your signature. That's how it works. So, why do we play this game called money? Because the bankers have divided everybody against each other, so that we don't take care of each other. You have an economic problem, we say, is there an economic problem? And everybody looks in their wallet and they say, well, I've got some money, no economic problem. Yeah. You have an economic problem, well, I'm sorry, that's your problem. We wish you luck. Maybe, get a job soon. But I don't have an economic problem. Why is it okay for us to live in a world where there's an economic problem when there's plenty for everybody? Why is it okay for us to accept a situation in which 1 billion people wake up every day not knowing where the next meal is going to come from? Why do we continue to participate in that system? there's other ways to live. There's a whole movement now. They say another way is possible. Google that. I'll give you one example of that. There are some people, they were protesting at the G8 conference one time, and some people got out of hand and they were smashing cars and windows and stuff. And so one of the bystanders said to the people, they said, well, we know what you're against, but what are you guys for? And they had to stop and think and say, yeah, right, good question, what are we for? So they went back to New York and they decided that they were going to have a free market. They wanted to counteract capitalism by not having any money at all. But that's the solution of the modern idea, right? Personalism is painful, so my spiritual salvation is impersonalism. Or capitalism is painful, so we won't have any money. So they went back to New York and they decided that they were going to have a free market. So they got a lot of stuff out of their closets that they weren't using and asked people to just donate some stuff, and then they put it out on the table there on the weekend. And people would come by and say, that's pretty nice. What do you want for that? And the guy would say, it's free. They didn't get it, right? So, no. How much do you want for that? No, it's really free. Come on. I mean, that's worth something. How much do you want for it, please? No, it's really, really free. So this is what they call now the really, really free market. Go on YouTube, look at the videos for the really, really free market. So there's one example of people starting to say, we have to do something a little different. How about Pay It Forward? Anybody see the movie? Read the book? Huh? Year 2000, book came out, Pay It Forward. It's a story, and a movie came out about 5 years later. It's a story of a high school civics teacher, social studies. And he's teaching adolescents, 12 years old or so. And he's telling them that you're growing up into a world that's not a really nice place. Of course, this is social studies, civics. He's trying to teach them about the world. How does the world work? And he says, you're going to come into this world, and what is the world? What does the world owe you, or what do you owe the world? He'd ask the students, and they said, well, me, I'm 12 years old. What do I owe the world? What does the world want from you? I don't know. What do I have to give? What do you want from the world? So he says, I'm going to give you an assignment for extra credit. You come up with an idea to make the world a better place. Because after all, this world is only what we all make it to be, right? So come up with an idea for extra credit to make the world a better place. So the story is about one young man. He decides, well, I'm gonna help the homeless people. We got a lot of those in America. So he goes down to the place where all the homeless people hang out, and he invites one of them to come back to his home. His mother's away at work, and he brings this guy in the house, and he eats everything out of the refrigerator. Mom came home, and she wasn't too happy with that. So he had to go to plan B. Anyway, he came up with this idea, a really nice idea. He said, I'm going to do something nice for two people without even being asked. I'm just going to find two people, I'm going to do something nice for them. And then I'm going to ask them, please, you do something nice for two more people. And you ask them to do something nice for two more people. So by geometric progression, within a short time, everybody in the world will be taking care of everybody. Nice idea. Anyway, so the story is about that. And this has spawned an entire movement all around the world called the Pay It Forward movement. That, we have this expression, loan me 50 euros and I'll pay you back next Saturday. I pay you back. But instead of paying back, we say, okay, pay it forward. It's a worldwide, it's a global movement now. Of people, they're looking to do something nice for people without even being asked. And you look on those websites and you see, they're doing, somebody's, they don't have enough money for something. So the guy behind him, he says, okay, I'll pay for that, don't worry. Or they pay for the toll for the car behind them going across the bridge. So they buy flowers for something. Just all kinds of stories like this. People doing wonderful things. And of course, because our culture is not really set up like that, many people are often shocked that here's a person I never saw before in my life, and they're paying for my groceries, $50. It's like, wow. Huh? There's a lot of stories like that because people realize we have to do something different. So, pay it forward is one. The really, really free market is one. There's a bunch of other things that are skipping my mind right now. But if you look on my website, Spiritual-Economics, you'll see there. There's the Hare Krishna movement. They do a lot of nice stuff. They feed a lot of people, right?
The gift.
Yeah, well, the gift economy. Oh, yeah. So that's another one. The gift economy. There's I can't remember the name of the website. It's on my blog. But there's places where in large cities they start up a thing where you want something. You look on this website to see who has something, and they're giving it away. You don't have to go buy it. You go over to their house, you see, okay, I've got a table. I don't need this table anymore. Let me give it away to somebody who needs it. And this is springing up. In fact, I think there's one here in Belgium. In Antwerp. I think there's one in Antwerp.
Facebook, Free Cycle Antwerp.
Free Cycle, yes, thank you. Free Cycle.
Antwerp.
Free Cycle, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so whatever you have, you know, instead of trying to exploit somebody to get some money from them, you give it away. They give it away. Everybody starts giving things away. This is the beginning of the gift economy. So this is what I call spiritual economics. My platform is that Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, he's telling us to live a gift economy based on devotional service. Exactly what Srila Prabhupada taught us. Give. Krishna is the maintainer. We don't have to worry about our maintenance. Krishna will take care of you. You give what you have. No, what do you have to give? Now, everybody has something to give. Huh? There's another group called the Time Bank. Anybody heard of the Time Bank? Now this is an interesting concept because it allows everybody to create money, so-called money. If time is money, as they say, right? You've got time, then you can create money. And how do you do that? By giving something to somebody. Right? You're a barber, cut somebody's hair, and you get a deposit in the time bank. So you give 1 hour of service to somebody, you get 1 hour of service. You don't need to put the government in between this with their currency. Taxes. There's no taxes in the gift economy. So you give an hour of service by cutting hair, and then you go to the car mechanic and he gives you an hour of service. The babysitter, her time is as valuable as the lawyer's. How's that for a concept? We're all equal, actually, aren't we? In terms of being spiritual beings. So why should our value, or why should our labor be valued differently? So there's people who are thinking about these things. They're trying to see how to make this world a different place, but they're not yet touching the concept of I and mine. This is where our book Spiritual Economics comes in, because we're directly dealing with this idea of I and mine. That we change the concept of I and mine to understand, who am I? I'm Krishna's. And what's mine? Nothing. Nirmama. Nothing belongs to me. It's all Krishna's. You know, it's not my book to sell you. It's Krishna's. You know, whatever we have, it's Krishna's. So I can't really sell it. Krishna's given it to me, then I should share it. Gift economy based on devotional service. This is our philosophy. This is Bhagavad Gita. The problem is we don't live our philosophy. We live according to the ways of the dominant atheistic materialistic culture. And the result is what? We're suffering like everybody else in the dominant materialistic atheistic culture. No different. We're not. The Bhagavad Gita, if we followed the Bhagavad Gita, we can lead the world and show how to live according to God's plan and be happy. That's what we need to do. And if we don't do that, we're going to struggle and suffer just like everybody else. So, this is what I'm advocating. A gift economy based on devotional service. Just like we understand how to do this with prasadam, right? We cook something up, we offer it to Krishna, and then we give it away. What about everything else? Do it the same way. What are you making? Furniture? Offer it to Krishna. Give it away. And we take care of each other. We take care of each other. Not you against the world, me against the world. Huh? You and me, we come together. And this has a very important personal aspect also. Because if I've got money, I don't need you. You have money, you don't need me. So we're divided immediately because of this money. So take money out of the equation. If I depend on you, you depend on me. I take care of you, you take care of me. Now, in that situation, I want you to be a good person. I want you to be dependable, honest, have good morals. I'm interested, I have a personal interest in all these people who I'm working with. I want them to be good people. In the money system, you can go to hell. What does it matter to me? Right? I got my money. Go to hell. Like that. So, this eliminates also the nirvishesha shunya body. Now, what's required of that? What's required is that we become decent people. We become qualified devotees. We become honest people ourselves. We become dependable. We develop good qualities so that others want to make a connection with us. And most people are falling a little short in that area, generally. Because we're trained in a different way. We've got bad training. So we want to turn this whole thing around, show the world how to solve these problems by understanding Bhagavad Gita. So this is the idea of spiritual economics. I hope that you can appreciate that here in your little group, huh? You take care of each other. You become an example here, how to change the world from this place here, in your relationships together. Easier to do it in the village than in the city, but you can find some ways like the really, really free market or the free cycle or whatever, time banks. You can start with that. Or make a prasadam restaurant. I'll tell you another one. The Karma Cafe in Berkeley, California. Nice restaurant. You go in, it's got, cloth, what do you call it? Tablecloths. They're made out of cloth, it's not just some fast food joint. Nice place. You go in, you sit down, the waiter comes in, takes your order, brings you your nice vegetarian food, and then at the end he brings you a bill and it says, you owe $0.00 because your meal has been paid for by somebody that came before you, and if you like, you can leave a donation for whoever comes after you. Start a prasadam restaurant like this. To make people think, how are we living in this world? Let's take care of each other. Instead of trying to exploit each other and take from each other. Who was it? Was it Gandhi said? An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth and everybody will be blind. Right? So, that idea is not very good. Well, instead of taking, why don't we just give? Give to each other. And when we do that, the benefit is that when we give of ourselves, it makes us happy. It gives us joy to give of ourselves to others. Now, we do that on Christmas, right? And we all know, we have experience. You giving some gift on Christmas, you feel good. Well, why just one day a year? Why not 365 days a year?
Wow.
We simply need to create the environment or the circumstances to allow that to happen. That's called Daivi Banashram. We're not going to go there too much at a time. Anyway, I hope that maybe we've inspired you with some ideas about how to live according to Bhagavad Gita, how to live differently. Please think about this. Take it up. If I can help you in any way, I'm very happy to. So we'll stop there for questions.
Questions?
No more vraag.
Yes.
I was thinking you were speaking about cooperation, that we need to that we actually should give to other people and help them also. And I was thinking, even if we don't want, we become forced in certain situations, like sometimes in the car, and then somebody needs to come from another side, and you have to cooperate and let that person come. So it's like Krishna shows, you're not depending or alone, like independent. You have to cooperate anyhow, even if you're not, like connected, or you know that person, but still the cooperation. And I thought, then I think, hey, sorry, just this point came to my mind.
Yeah. I want to hear some doubts.
Yes.
Come on.
Why is it that many projects in ISKCON are based on collecting fundraisers?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Money.
Because we've forgotten how the transcendental system. I'll give you an example of that. Like I said, Prabhupada started his movement based on giving, and when I became a devotee in 1973, we would go on book distribution, and we would give a book and just say, give a donation. There was no selling. Now, about 3 or 4 years later, things started to change, and we started to do different kinds of selling things. This was a fundamental change in our society, in which I say that we switched to becoming the International Society for Money Consciousness. Now, part of that reason, I'd say it's not an all bad thing, because at that time, Prabhupada was developing his temples, his big India projects, Mayapur, Bombay, and Vrindavan. And of course, these were financed by money that was sent to the BBT. So there was a competition amongst the temples to see who could send the most money to the BBT. And that's what really started this shift in consciousness, the shift to get money. Because we wanted to be, the number one temple to send the most money to the BBT. So the temple where I was at, we started with the ladies. The ladies would go out and they would pin flowers on men. And I don't know I can't remember what they would tell them, but something to give a donation, and because he pin a flower on this guy, he feels some obligation. So, and it was lucrative. And then we got into all kinds of other things gradually over time, candles and paintings and records and all kinds of what we call paraphernalia. What?
Yeah.
Carpets. Oh, you did carpets? Yeah, that's Bhagavan's territory. We didn't do carpets in the States. So anyway, you know the idea. The paintings also. So what we call paraphernalia. In my opinion, that destroyed our movement, because we had a shift of consciousness at that time. I'll give you a story from early days in San Francisco. The devotees, they didn't have any money for the rent, and they were trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? And somebody were arguing that let's go get jobs, and the others were arguing that no, we just depend on Krishna. Krishna's going to take care of us. And so they had this controversy what to do. And so anyway, I don't know how they settled it, but at the end of that, they decided to go out and do Harinam. So they went down the street, and it's like here, the buildings are 4 or 5 stories high. They're going down the street doing Harinam, and $100 bills started floating out of the sky. Right? So they're looking like, where's this money coming from? They couldn't see, some drug deal that went bad, or they didn't see anyway. They just scooped up the money and paid the rent. So I don't think that's a formula we should depend on all the time. But if we learn how to depend on Krishna, it's a fact. Prabhupada said, as soon as you get money, you spend it. And Krishna, he's no poor man. He'll immediately supply more. But you spend it for what? For spreading Krishna consciousness. So it's a fact that we've got the cart before the horse in terms of dealing with money. Money is a means, not an end. And it should never be confused with an end. You should never think, okay, well, I want to get a house, so I have to, a car, so, or whatever. So first I need to get money. No. You have an idea, so you pursue that idea. And the universe, as they say now in the New Age circles, the universe will supply what you need. The means. The means is up to Krishna. We just have desire, which is all we can do. We'd have a desire, and Krishna will fulfill that desire. And especially if it's in relationship to devotional service, the means will come. But we have to understand that principle, and we have to employ it.
My friends ask the idea of communism now in South Korea, North Korea, South Korea. There's communism, still now, in China also. But the idea is not so bad. We're working for each other. The idea of communism, we're working for each other without money. We can get for
the idea of communism has been co-opted. Ideal communism. Now, Prabhupada said in the preface of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada he talks about spiritual communism. But now we have to understand what real communism is, or the communism that we have experience of. In my book, I explain how the capitalists, they financed the Bolshevik Revolution, and they created the communists so that they could have a what do they call it? A monopoly on the entire communist nations. So it was the capitalists that were behind it. The ideology of communism is not bad, but what happens is whenever they try to put that into practice, these, as Prabhupada would call them, rascals, they get in the way and they try to exploit the situation. So this is why we need Kshatriyas to protect us from the rascals. Now, Karl Marx, speaking of that, Karl Marx is making a comeback in America now, because the problem is that people are a little bit limited in their ideas, so they figure, okay, if capitalism's gone bad, what do we have left? Well, we got communism, no, that failed, so let's go back to Marx, right? And so there's a lot of discussion about Marx these days again, and Marx had some good ideas. He wasn't all bad. Of course, he never took a bath. But anyway, anyway, the problem is that without Bhagavad Gita, without Sattva Gun, Sattva Gun is what makes the world function, right? That's maintenance. Sattva Gun. Hare Krishna. Right. So Sattva Gun makes the world function. Without Sattva, things can't function. That's where we're at today. No Sattva. So we have to bring up the Sattva, and the easiest way to do that is what? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Maha Harinam Sankirtan. This is what we need to save the world. Come on, let me hear some doubts. I want to hear your doubts. Yes.
Isn't it really the problem that we are all slaves? We have no real identity. We have an identity card, and we sign, and they got us. That affects us all the way.
Yeah.
From birth till death.
Right.
How can we get rid of it?
Don't give your children an identity card. They can be free. You know, this movie, The Matrix, was pretty accurate in many ways. They do this, of course, the same thing in America. We have our Social Security card, our identity card, and just to give you a clue how that works, they don't keep those cards in the Census Bureau. They keep them in the Commerce Department, because every person that's born is pledged as collateral against the debt of the United States government. We're not free at all. We're chattel. We're owned by the banks. So it's just like, the situation is just like all the stories we read in the Bhagavatam. It's the divine against the demoniac. We're in a chapter of the Bhagavatam now. How the demons, Prabhupada writes, so when the demoniac force is increased, then Krishna always manifests. So now the demons have again become strong. Battle of Kurukshetra, okay, their numbers were reduced, but now they've again become strong. So Krishna manifests, and Prabhupada writes, now he comes in the form of his holy name. So it's this eternal struggle against the divine and the demoniac, and we have to do our part. We can't just say, I'm just going to live my own private life, and no, we have to go out and we have to make Harinam. We have to live the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. Otherwise, unless we act, unless the devotees, actually only the devotees can save this world. Again, the others, they have good ideas, but they don't understand how the world works. And so, they didn't really understand the solution.
I'm thinking related to the taxes. In Krishna's Leela, there's also that Krishna and Radharani, they have their exchange of paying taxes.
Their exchange of what?
Like
paying taxes? Oh,
yes,
yeah.
There are some
in this way, Krishna is called Dhanesvara.
But that's only 25%,
Yeah.
not 95%. Like Belgium is the highest tax-paying country in the whole Europe.
Yeah. Probably in all the world then.
80%.
Huh?
Yes.
Huh?
That's what
How can you live?
Yes. For sure. Direct, indirect tax, we don't know how.
Oh, indirect. Yeah, indirect is another thing. Okay, is it time for kirtan? So thank you very much for your association. I have I have only with me 4 books, but anyway, let me see Mr. Krishna, he'll give you for donation, whatever you can give, between 1 and 1 million. Shil Prabhupada ki?